For heaven's sakes.
All right, welcome back to Salty Saints, a channel where we produce salty content for church-going dads. My name is Hayden Holm, and today I am joined by a great panel of guests. We got with us none other than, we got Rylan Fowers, PhD, runs the channel, Ether's Elephant. Check him out and subscribe on YouTube. We also have Sam St. Laurent, EMT, I believe, from North Carolina.
A long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have gathered these gentlemen together tonight because we have to talk about a graph that I recently saw that was more revealing than Dr. Fauci pleading the fifth, and we are going to dig right into that. I know that, Rylan, you do a mean Trump impersonation. How is your Fauci?
Not good. I don't think I could do a Fauci, but I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, it's
I
okay.
thought about trying for a second. I'm like,
droplets. That's all I know with Fauci. The masks protect you from the droplets.
That's
Put on
good,
another
man.
mask.
Yeah.
That's my Fauci. All right.
That's pretty good.
Anyway,
I like your Fauci.
But before we dig into the topic for tonight, if you are in a Dead Elders Quorum, which chances are you are, then we have the solution for you. We have, for the strength of dads.com, a whole Discord where we talk faith, family, finances, and more. We share memes. We game a couple times a week. We've got a therapist coming in twice a month where you can submit your problems, get some great answers, and figure out how to be a dad in 2026. We also have an upcoming retreat this November, the 12th through the 14th, where there's going to be hiking. We're going to have workshops. We're going to have swimming, pickleball. There's going to be cold plunge and sauna. It's going to be a great time. That's all at strengthofdads.com, strengthofdads.com. And before we go any further, it is time for a dash of salt.
And now it's time for a dash of salt. Oh, not too much now.
All right, so today's dash of salt, this came straight from the Salt Lake Tribune, and this is something I want to get your opinion on. Does it really matter who gets the sacrament first? Okay, so this is coming from David Noyce. And it says, if you frequently attend a Latter-day Saint sacrament meeting, the faith's main worship service, you probably notice that a man on the stand gets communion first. And yes, it's always a man, given that women are not ordained. It's often the congregation's lay bishop. Sometimes it's another male leader. That's by prescription. The presiding leader receives the sacrament first, the general handbook instructs, after which there is no set order. It's a policy/tradition. It doesn't appear to be explicitly scriptural. Anyway, it looks like someone wouldn't mind seeing that fade away. I get the point of trying to honor leadership, but we already have plenty of formal leadership honoring in our culture without using ordinances to further differentiate. This isn't a huge thing, and the old ship design will still be fine if this rule or tradition stays. And so he posted that out there. Some of the comments on it was, amen on this. With changing cultural mores, this sends a jarring signal to anyone paying attention. It's definitely unnecessary, yet it persists. Maybe it isn't a huge thing, but maybe it's a symptom of a huge thing? So, Rylan, what are your thoughts? The sacrament tradition.
That's a good question. I remember one time we were talking with the family and saying like, hey, do we really have to take the sacrament with your right hand? And in the handbook, it does say that you should take the sacrament with your right hand. So that's something.
Yeah.
I don't believe it says anything about the bishop or presiding person taking it first in the handbook anywhere, as far as I'm aware. And it sounds like they would have brought that up had that been the case. So I don't know. Like, part of me thinks either way, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. And so it's kind of funny that they would bother writing an entire article about something that's just kind of like
It's
cool,
a whole article. Somebody
Yeah,
was sitting down just getting triggered by this. Yeah.
And then as far as like
I
that
cut you
last
off,
statement,
go
like it's a symptom of something bigger. Like, I don't think so. I've had wards that like really like do that and make it obvious, and other wards where it's just like I remember passing the sacrament and like discussing this, as deacons, like, okay, like, should we like make it formal and like everyone wait? And we started doing that. But when I first started as a deacon, whoever got the tray first would just go straight up there. None of us would like wait for them to finish taking the sacrament, whoever was presiding. So
Right.
I don't know. I think every ward handles it a little bit differently. I'm trying to remember how they did it down in South America where I was at on my mission.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not something I've paid too much attention to. That I don't know, it doesn't keep me
Okay.
up at night.
Down in South America is
Sam,
where
what
they
are
call
your thoughts?
Down in South America is where they call it communion, right?
La Santa
Yeah.
Cena, yeah.
No, I think like what Rylan said. I think it's just a nothing burger. I don't know why you would write an article about that. Like who that prescribes to the Salt Lake Tribune is like really concerned with that. But I mean, somebody absolutely has to partake of the sacrament first. I mean,
Right.
it's just inevitable. Like somebody physically has to get it first. And so like, why not be the person who's presiding over the meeting? Like, I think that only just
Totally.
makes sense just naturally. But
Yeah.
if they should go to the back of the meeting house or out to the foyer first and hand it to those people, I think that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I guess they could.
Yeah.
Technically.
So are you saying that maybe we need to fill out a prescription for
Yeah.
triactin for some of these people? Like, hey, here's some triactin for you. You can start triacting like a man, and maybe maybe we should call the wambulance and get him some binkies or something like that. All right. Well, on to the featured presentation for tonight. We have straight from, this is, man, the organization is called, I want to say, like, religions, like graph religion.
Graphs
That has
about
something to do
religion.
with Graphs about
Yeah.
religion. That's what it is. This is from Ryan Burge. And the title of this article is The LDS Church Has a Retention Problem. He talks a lot about just retention, and he compares it by faith. And so this is one of the main graphs out here. This says religious retention by tradition. And it shows Jewish up at the top at 76, then none. Right below it,
Sure.
74%. None. Then Protestant 71%, Catholic 58, other 56, and then LDS 54%. The data is from Pew Religious Landscape Study 2023 to 2024. Just a quick call out. It says the two groups with the highest retention rates may surprise you, Jews and the non-religious. In both cases, roughly 3/4 of people raised in that tradition remain there as adults. Protestants are just a tick lower at 71%. After that, there's a notable drop-off. Catholics clock in at just 58%, meaning that more than 4 in 10 people raised Catholic have since left the faith. But when I showed this graph to a couple people, every one of them, I guess he said a couple people, every one of them, you mean both of them, mentioned the exact same thing. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a real retention problem. Just a bare majority of kids raised LDS are still LDS as adults, 54%. And whenever I get a flood of questions about single finding like that, it prompts me to explore it in further detail. So this entire article walks through why retention is a problem in the LDS Church. But when you hear that, what are some of your first thoughts? Rylan, we'll start with you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. So where to even begin? I guess first off, I think it's funny this idea that you can like achieve causal inference by looking at a few graphs. Like,
That's why we got the
nothing in here.
PhD out here, baby. Yeah.
Pretty much everything in here is like, huh, interesting. I do think, retention is a serious concern, like whether or not it's a bigger concern than some of these other traditions. Like, I don't even know how you make that comparison because how retention is defined is not the same from religion to religion. Like,
Right.
people who define themselves as Jewish,
Yes.
like, there's a whole spectrum. Like, it's an ethnicity as well as like a religion. So like, how on earth do you even distinguish that? If you ask people, are you Jewish? They're like, yes. Oh, are you religious?
Check. They are
Yeah,
still
like-
Jewish. Yeah.
Yeah, like like that's just not something that changes over time. And then the nuns, like not the NUN nuns, but the NONEs that are supposedly
Yeah.
number 2 here. Like that could encompass all sorts of belief. That could be like atheist. That could be a belief in God. Not to
Right.
Protestants, number 3. I mean, there's all sorts of Protestant religions in there. And by the way, like being still considered a Protestant is like the easiest thing to do because you don't have to go to church to still be a Protestant.
That right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to go to Bible club to be a Protestant. You just say, yeah,
Active
I
at-
believe in
active at
Jesus.
what church building?
Exactly. You don't have to like.
Yeah. Well, let's
So,
just
like-
say it wasn't lost on me that the Protestants and the nuns were so close together. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm still
mean, really-
practicing. I guess that's still my identity.
Yeah, totally. And then when honestly, like the Latter-day Saints were probably the most strict about who would determine themselves as a Latter-day Saint. Because if you stop going for a while, you're probably not identifying as a Latter-day Saint because you're not participating. We have the strictest rules. People who are Catholic, I met so many people on my mission who said, I was born Catholic, I'm going to die a Catholic. Slam the door. Do I think those people were going to church? No. Were they actively participating? No. And they were basically admitting, I don't even believe in this religion, but I will die a Catholic.
Right,
I have no
right.
rebuttal except for to say that I was born in this religion. Slam the door, which is kind of funny. Anyway, I have
Yeah.
more and more thoughts, but I am curious to see what you guys think, so I'm going to pause there for now.
Yeah, Sam, what are your thoughts?
No, that was the first thing for me too. Like Jewish 76%, that's laughable. That is absolutely laughable. Like, what exactly are we talking about? Because I would actually argue that perhaps the LDS is a little bit too high as well. Like, think about all of the people that have left the church that identify as like Mormons still. It's like it's not an ethnic, it's not like an ethnicity or a racial categorizer or category, but people will use it like that. And so I think the same thing with Jewish. Like, I have a lot of Jewish friends, but like simply eating a different, simply choosing to have a kosher meal over a non-kosher doesn't mean that you're actually practicing the religion. And I think that, but a lot of them would identify as Jewish. And so, like, if they were to take a study or a survey like this, I'm certain they would put Jewish, but none of them are practicing the actual religion. They're just practicing like the culture of the religion because they are, perhaps their family history includes some Jewish line. And so,
Yeah.
and I
So
think
the
a lot
graph
can,
is all about.
yeah, I think
go ahead.
a lot can be said about a lot of these categories, especially what you guys said about the Catholics. Like, okay, yeah, so you were you received some of the sacraments, therefore you're a Catholic. I think that we really only have like one of the religions that's willing to say like, hey, here's your membership. Like, do you still want to retain your membership? And people say like yes or no when they leave, or they just become inactive. Because I would actually push back, Hayden, and almost say that people that are inactive might actually take this survey and still say that they're Latter-day Saint, even if they're like not openly against the church, or even if they no longer believe it, but perhaps they're just inactive. They might say that they're still part of the church in some sense.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, there might be some people out there, but I do think that in terms of activity, we might be one of the only churches out there that talks about it as much, or probably the most out of any other religion.
In the online
like we are
sphere, for sure.
constantly
Yeah.
talking about activity. Like, all right, well, and I think you're considered inactive, or at least you were on the mission if you stopped attending for 3 weeks, I think. It's like if you didn't attend for 3 weeks, it was like, okay, this is basically categorized as inactive. And so I think members of the church are a little bit more, I guess, keyed up, or more attuned to how active they are in their religion, and they realize that if they are not as active, they don't necessarily identify as their religion, But that is something that they actually talk about in the article. Before we get there, one of the big metaphors that they make here is that every religion is like a styrofoam cup, and that the way that you get that you fill it up is by getting new converts. And eventually when people die, it pokes a hole in the styrofoam cup and then it starts leaking out. So the whole goal is to get new people in the cup. Well, how do you do that? Well, you convert people, right? So one way to add volume is convert new people into the tradition. Many religious groups, including evangelicals and Latter-day Saints, put a tremendous amount of emphasis on sharing their faith with outsiders, but conversion is incredibly hard. Very few door knocks produce converts. So when it's looking at retention, it says, while a young couple who has new baby and brings them to church adds some liquid to the styrofoam vessel, what happens if that child grows into a teenager or young adult who stops attending entirely? To stick with the metaphor, this forms a little hole where water begins to flow outwards. So basically, they're saying, all right, LDS Church has a lot of holes in their cups, and this article is trying to point out why. And so down here, we can see retention rate by birth decade. All right, so it shows basically a pretty linear progression. Right? We see a negative slope from the 40s or earlier until the 1990s of people who have been retained as active adults. And as you can see, the LDS is in the blue over here. That one started at 68, went down to 47, and then Protestant was purple, 83 to 58, and then Catholic is green, and that went from 73 to 50. One thing to call out is like, it seems like every religion has a retention problem. It's not just universal to us. It's not just an us thing. It seems like everyone more or less is experiencing that same downward trend that that society has been fueling. So what do you think is fueling that trend?
Ooh, well, where to begin? I guess the first thing is we don't know for sure. I think it is interesting that you see the younger, 1990s plus, having the lowest estimated retention. And by the way, all this is very much estimated because it seems like it's all coming from the Pew religious landscape, which is not representative of the church at large. We should probably point that out.
Yeah, that's a good question. Real quick, what's the sample size here? Like, what is the size of the study?
I believe he said there's 730 people. So Pew isn't like, Pew just collects a bunch of survey stuff over time, and they try to be more or less representative, and they will actually weight things differently. And it'll be, the thing that kind of sucks about articles like this is there's not like laid out methodology to reproduce what he's doing here, because ideally Pew gives you like weights that you're supposed to like adjust according to, you can either do like the raw numbers or try and adjust it to be slightly more representative. And I only know this because I kind of looked into it, into Pew stuff in the past for funsies. Anyway, but like the idea that you have like a representative sample of the entire church is just like, yeah, good luck with that. Like, that's not going to happen. This is not going to be representative at all. There's going to be problems with it. Can it still be interesting? Sure. But like, it's not going to tell us necessarily trends for the entire church, especially globally.
Right.
But
like, and do we know where it came from? Is this like, was this just in Utah, or was this outside of Utah?
No,
was this?
They usually, they try and get as broad of a survey as possible. I'm not sure about the Pew religious one, but I know their main one they mostly do, I think, in the United States. At least they have a flag for like if you're a United States citizen, but I don't know like the geography of everything.
I think you're the first person I've ever met that has looked into Pew for fun. And that's why we have you on. This is fantastic.
There's so many people who like do different silly things like this from the Pew Research. It's like,
yeah,
okay, fine, whatever. It doesn't tell us very much, to be frank.
Right.
But we do know, and that being said, retention is a problem. Whether or not it's this big, or these margin of errors are probably even too small that they have here. Whether it's a problem, and it's a problem even if like 5 people don't stay in the church, right? It's going to be a problem, and it's probably a growing problem. I don't think anyone would deny that. The extent of the problem and the cause behind it, that's a very complicated question, one that we can only hypothesize about. And what I would think that might be going on, just in kind of my observations, is all these people talk. Some of these ex-members or anti-members of the church will talk about how oh, the internet has just exposed the truth of Mormonism. Like, down goes Mormonism because
Aha!
of the seer
Yeah.
stone. Nobody knew
We
about it.
finally
This was
reached the
taboo.
age of education and information. We are enlightened. Yeah.
Yes. And that the internet's been around since the 90s, and I don't think the internet impacted the church very much at all. Maybe, you could argue. I mean, maybe. However, I do think the bigger concern, the part that a lot of us are fighting today in the youth and people even that are millennial age, is not the internet age, but the social media age, where now there are algorithms that are pushing stuff to you. And sure, it might have some of the anti-content, but that's always been there. The difference is now it's being force-fed to you in a way that also plays on your psychology, where, oh, it's popular now to do this behavior that's anti the church. Oh, everyone else is doing it. This peer pressure from
Right.
online is enormous.
It's
And
trendy. Yeah.
it's trendy. And you combine that with the I think just by observation, right? People in family and in Utah that I've observed and friends growing up, there have been more people leaving the church from my observation than in the past. And I think that would be a major variable that comes into play. That's just a
love it.
guess, but that's where I would go.
Yeah. So algorithms. Sam, what are your thoughts?
I think a lot of this gets a lot more interesting when you go down to the bar chart that talks about where they're going after they leave.
Let's
'cause I
go
think-
there. Look at that.
I think if you look at, well, even if you stay on that one about the Protestants, Catholics, and LDS, I think what you'll notice
right here.
is, like, obviously, as you stated, as you go throughout the years, it gets less and less and less as far as retention, or the retention issue becomes worse. And that,
Yeah.
I think, broadly speaks to, like, perhaps a cultural change. But if you look at those individual religions, right, like LDS is always lower than the Catholic Church, which is always lower than the Protestant Church. What I see in this is, as the religion gets a little bit more, I don't want to disparage our Catholic friends, but as the religion gets a
Yeah.
little bit more involved or requires you to take a more active participation in the religion, it seems as though the retention decreases. And so I think I see that a lot with individuals perhaps that, like, don't stay after the first couple of years. I think I'd be hard pressed to say that, like, within the first year, if they don't have a calling, like, that's not a great thing. But also callings require a lot of you, right? And so for people that perhaps aren't as comfortable, like, participating actively, the idea of having more responsibility, at least right up front, can be a little bit more daunting, perhaps. But the next graph, though, is really interesting, because I think the article tries to portray that, like, LDS are leaving for, like, Protestantism.
Yeah.
But I think
this
what
one.
what it really shows here, because it's like, okay, they become non-religious, but the next biggest category is Protestantism. And I think that what it really shows is, as people find that LDS theology is not unpalatable, they don't seek out any other religion. So it, like, actually undermines, like, Christianity as a whole, or religion as a whole. And it doesn't, like,
That's
play in
interesting.
favor of the
Yeah.
Protestantism. I think what it says is, like, the people leaving say, if I had issue with this, I'm definitely not going to be compatible with these other things.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. And I think I agree with both of you on this. It reminds me a lot of that recent study that came out from the BYU, it was like Study on Youth or something like that. And basically they said that that youth who own smartphones are 3 times more likely to de-identify with the church than their counterparts. And so I look at what Rylan's saying, and I think I agree with that. I think it is the phones. I think algorithm is for sure at play here. And I don't think it's as much of the effectiveness of Exmo or anti-content, or that the church's truth claims have been more broadcasted and people are more doubtful about the church these days. I think there is a segment of that, but I don't think it's as big as people would want it to be. I think more times than not, I think what it is that people's lives are being so suffocated by the constant pressure of algorithms in their life, addicting social media platforms that are taking up every spare second, that they begin to neglect their spiritual welfare. So President Hinckley, the prophet that spoke more about retention than any other prophet, he mentioned that our spirits are like a muscle. Like, we have to exercise them, we have to nourish them, we have to take care of them, or else we're going to lose it and we're going to lose our testimony. And so if we are constantly consuming content on our phone that is just non-nourishing content, then our spirits are going to pay the price for that. And so I think a lot of people are writing checks, spiritual checks, that their spirits can't cash. And so their spirits are like, I'm out, I can't do this anymore. And then they end up bouncing from the church. And I think a lot of it is just because of the addicting nature of the apps and social media on smartphones. But I'm right there with you. That's my hunch. If I were a gambling man, that's where I'd put my money. Okay, but then we have this graph here. Really interesting. This is what Sam was pointing out, that a lot of members just go to no religion. This is exactly what we see with a lot of the anti and ex-member influencers. They end up leaving the church, and then you see a progression. You can actually watch this because about 9 out of 10 of them start off saying, I'm healing out loud, baby. And so they post their
vague
journey.
spiritualism as well.
Yeah.
So they post their journey, and it all starts from like, I'm going from the church, I'm going to explore other churches, and then eventually it goes from, well, I'm not Christian anymore, but I still believe in God. And then it goes to, well, I don't believe in God, but I'm still spiritual. And then it goes to like, well, everything is pointless. And so that's kind of the progression. And that's where you got Alyssa Grenfell just like dead-eyed, soulless, just talking about the crumble cookie and swig and tying it back to church leaders at this point. So really, a lot of people are following that same pattern. They just kind of step away from the church, then they just leave Christianity and belief in God altogether. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that so many members follow that pattern?
Okay, wait. First off, I just had an epiphany. What if Alyssa Grenfell is watching Salty Saints all the time for video ideas? I mean, you make those little shorts where you're like, come up with funny ideas, but then here again on the live stream, someone's listening right now, Hayden, and they're thinking, that's not a bad idea. She's gonna make something about swig and
well, she's already made crumble cookie and swig connections. So I mean,
right.
But far be it from her to reuse content. I mean, I think she would. She's like, call my team up. Let's get it again.
Yeah,
Listen, we've already done it. I said, hit it again.
If you're looking for a job, man, I bet she'd be hiring for ideas such as the ones that you have.
I'd be happy to be your script writer. She actually reached out to one of my posts. She said
no way,
because the whole gist of my short was that she
was it the backflip one.
Yeah, the backflip one. She was just so desperate for content that she was just like, oh. And so the whole gist was like, I was her script writer and I couldn't think of anything. And then her comment was, I write my own scripts. And I was like,
that makes it better.
Case in point. Hey.
That's not the defense I think she thinks it is, because then it's her that's coming up with these silly ideas.
That's right. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Unless she thought, anyway, okay. Anyway. So why are people, I mean, it's hard to say what the actual numbers are, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the nun group is one of the highest, at least in the United States. I don't know if this trend carries to other countries very well, but especially in like Utah area, it's like the culture and the anti-culture, which is a culture in and of itself. You got to go get a tattoo and carry around a Starbucks mug to show how non-Mormon you are in Utah. It's part of the culture there. Anyway, I think part of it is, well, I would guess that none of these other religions satisfy what people are looking for. If you trust some other research in quotes, some of these people that are in the nun group do still believe in God and still retain some of their Latter-day Saint upbringing. Some of them don't. And it depends on the person. And I think there is a group of people within the nuns that believe in the truth claims about the Godhead, for example, maybe about the pre-mortal existence, things that these other religions don't teach, but they tend to believe still, and they just think the church has fallen in some way, so they're kind of waiting for, quote unquote, further light and knowledge. So there is that portion of it that adds to it. Then you have obviously the atheist group, which is kind of popular, and you have, I mean, we'll get to this, kind of the intersection of the politics and culture, but you do have kind of like that more humanist type of religious belief that's sometimes atheist humanist, sometimes it's like this form of like a god that's a therapeutic deism, as it's been coined, where you know, it's like a therapy god. So I think all of those would play into the nun. And if you observe, you know, I'm thinking mostly of Utah here because it's high concentration of Latter-day Saints, which is great. But like of the people who leave, very rarely do you see people going to other religions because it's just not really part of like the anti-culture over there. You know, that like
it's not
the culture.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying like anti against the church per se, more of like the, oh, I'm going against the culture of the place where I live, so I'm not going to be Mormon. You know, anyway.
Right.
I hope that makes sense, but that's
no, it does. It reminds me of that scripture. There's a scripture that says like that, you know, if they reject the light, then the light that they have will be taken from them, you know? And so that's what I see. This is kind of like a scriptural fulfillment of that, where it's like, you reject the light, boom, we're going to take it right from you. You're going to be praying to Mother Gaia, making your own deodorant, you know, and playing hacky sack with your 4 or 5 boyfriend life partners or whatever, wondering about the questions of life, you know. And
while you're saying the church, with your 4 or 5 boyfriends getting mad at the church for believing in polygamy.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, at least we have the audacity to marry people instead of like, you know, I think side tangent here. You know, people celebrate these celebrities who sleep around. Like there's so many NBA players, for example, that have kids with like a bunch of different women. No one bats an eye. And then they're like, Joseph Smith had 14 women or whatever, you know, or the number changes. We don't know for sure what that number
because he actually married
is.
them.
Like, he married them. Like, come on, give the guy some credit that he actually wanted to marry someone before
he took on the responsibility.
He'd taken on this responsibility. Like, if he was all about, like, why would he bother with the marriage stuff? Anyway.
That's right.
Funny to me. Our society's completely backwards on that. They celebrate hookup culture, and then they're like, oh, how dare he marry more than one woman? Okay, anyway.
Totally. All right, so then we have the this graph down here. This is current attendance of former LDS who became Christian. I'm going to disagree with that. But I understand what they're saying. Disagree with the wording on that one a little bit there. So it talks about never, seldom, a few times a year, once or twice a month, once a week, and then more than once a week. Look at that overwhelming majority there. Once a week. So current attendance of former LDS who became Christian. So it became Protestant or Catholic, and then stayed LDS. What are your thoughts when you see this, Sam?
I love this one because it's you read it almost as like they're not classifying us as Christian, but I looked at it almost as a dig at the Christians, because if you look at the individuals who left and their attendance, like it's almost as if those who have left probably weren't very active to begin with in their current religion before they left. And they're now in a religion that fits in the paradigm that they want to be.
Their activity.
It fits at their activity level. And like, once again, like I have an issue with it because I believe in the truth claims of the church. But at some point I have to realize like that is the level that they're willing to accept. Like they're willing to accept the Protestant level, the Baptist level, the evangelical level. They're willing to accept even the Catholic level, which requires them to attend Mass, perhaps, and it requires some stuff of you more than I would say Protestantism does, but it's a different requirement for sure. So
yeah,
I think this graph is kind of reflective of that.
I mean, it shows you it's kind of like an all-in. It's like you got to be all in this game, and so you see LDS is like, You got 53% once a week,
Man,
and
once a
then
week.
the next highest is like 12% at a few times a year. And then it's basically nothing after that, you know. And then you got
Yeah.
17%. The highest, the second highest was 17% at more than once a week, which is wild. And so,
Yeah.
so this is an all-in religion. You know, it's like, yeah, it kind of following the Savior's admonition. You know,
Yeah, once
you're
a
not going to
week is.
turn back once you put your hand to the plow.
I mean, once a week is attending Sunday service. Like that's not. That's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
That's not crazy. That's just that should happen. For a Catholic,
Right.
they should be attending service once a week, right?
Look at that. 70% of those who stayed LDS are attending once a week or more. It's pretty good.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you know what? We get criticized for being a quote unquote high demand religion, which there's some truth to that because, you know, like how could a religion not be high demand? That's probably the bigger question, probably the more correct question. But like if you consider that and look at our retention numbers, it's like, dang, among the high demand religions, we have some amazing retention numbers. We're like in the top five.
Not doing too bad.
We're not doing too bad. And look at this. To Sam's point, you know, the people who left or born in LDS and then left, they weren't attending to begin with. So like they're not even being like they're not living up to attendance in wherever they landed in Protestantism or Catholicism. So
Yeah.
like, they weren't part of they couldn't keep up with the high demand part, I suppose. I don't know. We're just kind of reading between the lines here at this point, but it is an interesting idea behind this graph for sure.
Totally. And then down here, this is what, Rylan, you were talking about this a little earlier. So we're going to get into the kind of the cross-section of ideology of the LDS stayers versus the leavers. So this is people who have left LDS versus stayed LDS. You have 12% very liberal, 24% liberal, moderate at 37%, and then 17% conservative and 10% very conservative are those who left. And then for those who stayed, it's basically a majority conservative, very conservative, and moderate. But what are your thoughts on this? Do we think politics has more to play?
Well, they say religion or culture. Politics is downstream from culture, which is downstream from religion. And
Right.
so these tend to not be too surprising that there's some type of interaction at play or some type of correlation at the least. So even with the limitations of this data, it is not super surprising, I would think.
Yeah. Sam, what are your thoughts?
I really don't know what to think
He's
of this.
speechless.
I don't know what to
He's-
think of this.
So, he's like,
'Cause in the-
we're mostly conservative? Ah!
Well, no, because I would consider myself, if I took this survey and I was presented with this question on a scale of very liberal to very conservative, what would you consider yourself? Instantly, my mind goes from the qualifier of conservative to political parties, which I think is not accurate. And I wonder, like, because you have that moderate, like, who are those people that are considering themselves to be moderate, and what does that actually mean in the grand scheme?
Yeah, how are
Like,
they
I don't
defining
know,
moderate? Yeah.
and perhaps I didn't read enough into the this like kind of report, but I don't know how they asked that question. I guess not that it would really matter, because at the end of the day, kind of like Rylan's survey that he sent out, it really just depends on who's answering the question and whether or not they consider themselves to be conservative. But it's not shocking, right? As people, especially members of our church, are very educated. I would say that we're probably more educated than most. And I do think that there's a connection with like schooling and kind of like your political swings, I would say.
Totally.
That could lead to this.
No, I
What
think
a
you're right.
beautiful
Yeah,
chart.
go ahead.
It's terrific. A great chart. The Mormons, they love me. They love their president. He's a great guy. This country is a great country because of the Latter-day Saints. Let me tell you. Anyway.
Hey, that actually it might
Love
be a
it.
direct
Oh,
quote, though.
man. Best Trump impersonation I have heard in the LDS influencer sphere.
Yeah, there's not
Hats
that
off
many,
to
so.
Rylan. Yeah. Yeah.
Trump
But
would
that
love
is
this graph, though,
fantastic.
right? You know, like
Yeah, yeah.
the staid Latter-day Saints. He wants everyone to be a
Right.
Mormon. That's what I think. He's just going to be a
So this
missionary so he can
basically
win.
This is basically saying, like, you know, all those old ladies that post like the Trump photos on the Trump memes on their Facebook pages, where it's like Trump and the Savior walking hand in hand, you know, and saving the country. It's like, yeah, that's what they're getting at here. It's like,
I have never seen
those
one of
old
those
ladies,
photos.
yeah.
I'm not on Facebook very
Gotta
much,
love
so
it.
maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's a really, really, really interesting here. The only other graph that I wanted to look at was this one right here: childhood attendance among LDS stayers versus the leavers. So of those who left versus those who stayed, and this is their childhood attendance charts. And so you could see, like, more than once a week was pretty big up there, like 45% for those who left LDS versus 52% who stayed. Rylan, what are we looking at? Put on your PhD hat and let me know, what are your thoughts when you see a graph like this?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. So we got, this is not one that I looked at before. Childhood attendance. So, okay, just how much people attended while they were a child. And it's pretty much, I mean, look at that. 97. So, according to this, all those who were born LDS as a child, or like according to the survey, are we to say that 97% were attending more than once a week while they were a child?
Yeah.
Among everyone who was born LDS, and then 45% of those left, or 45 of the 90 like left, and then 52 stayed. So I don't know. This looks like somewhat similar, I suppose, to the chart we saw above about attendance. So I don't know what to make of this. I guess that, you know, while people were attending, or while they were members, they attended a lot, probably with their parents. And then when they got older, they decided to leave. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to make of this.
It says, among those who left the faith, weekly attendance rates were 72%, 20 points lower, yes, but 72% weekly attendance as a child is still a remarkably high baseline by any measure.
Yeah.
And then there are two differences at the bottom end of the attendance spectrum, too. Among those who left the LDS church, 7% went to church less than once a year, compared to 2% of those who stuck around. But again, it's not true to say that the average ex-Mo was not going to church that much to begin with, when in fact, most of them were there every single week. Among those who raised in the LDS faith, where religion was very or somewhat important to both their family and themselves, and they attended church weekly, retention was about 68%. What about those raised in an environment deficient in at least one of those factors? Retention was a paltry 25%. Okay, so one of the things that I look at when I see these numbers is, I think parents before the age of algorithms were able to basically just run the program. They were able to get the playbook, run the playbook, and they got great results. So it was like, all right, hey, I go to church every week. I do my family home evening once a week, and I just make sure that, you know, we're maybe saying our prayers as a family and we're good to go. I think what this is saying is that families have to be more intentional. If I were to distill one gem out of this report, that's the gem that I would take away. Is I think this is a call to action saying, you know, just getting your kids to church on a weekly basis isn't enough anymore. Like, you can't just bank on the church to get them to the finish line. If you want active kids, then you're going to have to be more intentional as a parent. And to back that up, I got an old quote from one of our favorite prophets, President Nelson, and he mentioned, in a coming day, only those men who have taken their priesthood seriously by diligently seeking to be taught by the Lord himself will be able to bless, guide, protect, strengthen, and heal others. Only a man who has paid the price for priesthood power will be able to bring miracles to those he loves, and this is the important part right here, and keep his marriage and family safe now and throughout eternity. Dang. So I think if we're looking through prophetic eyes here, I think what he saw was that algorithms are going to start replacing the spirit. I think what he saw was a lot of kids just getting addicted to their phones, showing up to church, but similar to becoming more and more like a PMO, like physically in, mentally out. Why are they mentally out? Well, they've got an escape hatch right in their palm. Like kids don't know how to be bored anymore. Kids don't have as much silence or stillness anymore. And I think that's coming as a huge impact on their testimony. But what are your thoughts on that? We'll go to Rylan
Sam is
first.
talking. Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot.
Oh,
Sam was talking.
he's
Sorry.
back.
You were muted.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think that these aren't effective for our religion. Like, I think that these kind of questions aren't effective at all. Like, and we kind of spoke to this a little bit. Like, what does it mean to be like a member of the church? Does it mean that you have your membership's valid? Like, I would argue that there's a lot of members who are actually, like you said, that aren't really, they're physically in, mentally out. And that is just as good of a metric for us to say on here that you've left the church, essentially. Like, if you're skirting your covenants, then that's the same thing as leaving the church. But others might say, well, you have to actually physically remove your membership in order to leave the church. That's not the case for our religion. Like,
Right.
And it's hard to measure that. And so those who have left, like, what is their heart behind why they left? Like, at the end of the day, like, that's what's going to be measured. Like, what situation were they dealing with? So for us, it's less about like a membership. Like, yeah, we like the metric because it kind of shows a pattern, but at the same time, like, there's a person behind that, like, number, or a person behind like the membership, where it, like, we tend to care, I think, more about the person behind the number, whereas like big corporations,
we teach people, not lessons.
Yeah,
right?
like if I'm running, yeah, exactly. If I'm running like Planet Fitness, like I care about like the retention of the membership, right? But I don't care about the actual individual that comes and works out. Like, that's not how our church works. So yeah, I think it's sad when we do have people that like actually leave the church. But we have a bigger problem with people that are just physically in and mentally out. Like, that's also a problem. But that's a problem across, I believe, all religion in general. And
Totally. So just a quick comment here. This came in from DJ Butler Rock Band. He said, no, this is in reference to the graph that Rylan was reading when he said, is this like 97%? He says, of those who stayed, 52% went more than one time a week, and of those who left, 45% did. So it's of those two different samples.
Is that David Butler?
I think it is. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, I am
at that.
starstruck right now.
I'm blushing
he's
over
absolutely
here.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So apologies for if I
Another
said
PhD
anything
in the
wrong. I
chat.
don't remember exactly what I said, but
Yeah.
I was just looking at this though. So yes, among those that left, 72% were attending at least once a week, and 92% of those who stayed, 92% were attending at least once a week. So the interesting thing that I'm noticing here is, like, yes, that is a pretty good baseline among those who left, 72%. That's pretty high. Were attending as a child, which is probably why, the thing is though, is like, this is already baked into the problem at hand, because if you identified as a Latter-day Saint as a child, that probably means you were attending as a child. And so 72% shouldn't be that shocking that 72% of among those that left, which is the 300 that left, 72% of those were attending once a week or more. The 92% among those who stayed, that's really high, 92. And actually, when you think about it, like, yes, it's a high baseline for those that left, but again, like, we should expect that because they identified as Latter-day Saints. 92 versus 72, that's a 20% difference. That's actually like pretty substantial difference between those who stayed in the church and those who didn't. And the fact that they're both high in once a week or more shouldn't be that shocking to us. So that's kind of my thoughts now that I kind of see what's going on with this particular graph. So
Love it. All right. Well, we will post a link to all of those graphs in the description in this video. We are getting close to the hour, so we're probably going to start wrapping up there. But guys, what are your takeaways after seeing these graphs? Does the LDS Church have a retention problem, as claimed by this article? Rylan, we'll start with you.
Well, as claimed by the article, I don't think the article can. Okay, yes, the church has a retention problem. Does do these graphs like change it or help us understand why? Not really. They kind of raise more questions, which isn't bad. Raising questions is good.
Yeah.
It kind of brings up more hypotheses, but it certainly doesn't satisfy any relationship of like. And the thing is this is such a hard, challenging question that like trying to understand like the reasons why people aren't retaining is very difficult. We know that the culture is changing. We know that technology is changing. I think those play a big part of it, but that's only a hypothesis. So yes, the church does have a retention problem. Am I convinced because of this article? No. I'm convinced because people I've seen have left the church, and people will probably continue to leave the church, and we don't want them to if they're not doing so by their own free will of choice and knowledge. If people like, look, I've read the entire Book of Mormon, I like have prayed, like they just say, I just don't think it's true. You know, we shake their hand. We want them to continue to serve with us, and hopefully they still do. That's fine. The problem is like we want people to understand what they're leaving, and if they still choose to leave, fine. But we want them to understand it, and we want them not to do it for peer pressure, not to do it because they read something that was anti-Mormon online that wasn't actual reality, not to do it because it's the cool thing to leave the church. We don't want anyone leaving the church for the wrong reasons. Not that there are any right reasons, as one who is a believing member of the faith, but at least, it's something that we need to be concerned about, and we want to do everything we can to empower people in their agency, which isn't going to change the consequence, but at least people should be as much aware as possible. So,
love it. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think there is a retention problem. It's something that I think members can see. How big of a problem it is, I think I'm not 100% sure, but if it were up to me, if they said, hey, how do we fix the retention problem? What do we do? I tell you what the retention problem is. From my perspective, it is dead elders quorums. That is the hole in the church right now. That is hemorrhaging members, like the dead elders quorum, because from the studies I've done, like if the father is active, the children and the mother will follow the father in their faith. We've seen studies that say, like, if the father's active, he gives his children the highest probability that they will remain active adults in their adult years. So if your ward is dead, they're not doing anything, elders quorum is just gone, then of course you're going to have problems. But if you want to fix the youth, if you want to fix Relief Society, fix the elders quorum, and then their children will follow their fathers into activity. So I think that's where the problem lies. And as we fix elders quorums out there, as we kind of change the format, and I'm not saying we change any doctrine, I'm not one of those guys that's like, like I'm not like a Charlie Bird, like, hey, let's do gay temple ceilings, No, I'm just saying, maybe we shake up the format in elders quorum a little bit, maybe make it a little bit more engaging. Maybe we talk a little bit more. So the last guest that I had on, Bode Swanson, after I interviewed him, he was like, hey, I haven't seen much of your podcast. What do you do? And I was like, I kind of talk about the elders quorum. He's like, are you the round table snack guy? And I was like, hey, guilty. And he was like, my elders quorum president watched that reel. He implemented everything. And he said, our elders quorum is now standing room only. He said, we have people that are showing up. They're actually meeting outside the quorum now. And it's not forced. It's not awkward. The men, they're connecting with each other. He's like, it feels great. It feels amazing. I've never connected with other men. I've never had friends in my adult life, but now I do. And I'm like, boom, this is it. I think that's the solution. Ooh, we got a comment here from DJ Butler Rock Band who says, or, hear me out, no EQ meetings at all. EQ just coordinates service projects. Okay. Wow. There's
Mhm.
another fix for the retention problem. Yeah. But then we would just have Sunday school, and I don't really know what the point of Sunday school is anymore, you know? Especially with 25 minutes of it. But yeah. So then I think that's all the time we've got. I know I can see Rylan is telling me with his eyes that he is missing his basketball game right now, and so we got to get him out there. So we are going to be going pretty soon here. Until next time, Rylan, where can people find you?
Ether's Elephant. I'm mostly on YouTube. I'm actually on other platforms now. And there's a website, etherselephant.com, that you can find different resources and, find all the good stuff. So, yeah, Ether's Elephant on YouTube.
That's awesome. Hey, maybe we can do an Alyssa Grenfell skit if you're on another, like a TikTok or something like that. We'll do a dance or something at Swig.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
And then we have with us Sam St. Lord. Be sure to follow him around. He's all over the place. He's talking with everybody.
He is, yeah.
And so be sure to check him out whenever he pops onto a conversation. My name is Hayden Holm, and this is Salty Saints. We will see you guys later.